If I can figure out how to advance the slides, there we go. Oh, no, that didn't work. There we go. So the first decision you must make is really simple. Will you choose the mindset of a sucker, or will you learn to think like the wealthy? And it really is a choice. The fact that you've joined the class today is a great sign that you're on the right track. And here's the good news. You don't have to be wealthy to think like the wealthy. You only need knowledge and action. This is your opportunity to gain that knowledge, and it will prepare you, and we will share how you can take action. Financial literacy is the #1 economic crisis in the world. And we know the word sucker sounds insulting. Unfortunately, it's the best way to describe someone who can be taken for advantage of because they don't know how things work. And not knowing how money works does suck. It sucks up your time, it sucks up your freedom, and it can even suck up your income. And that sucks. So over 5 billion people in the world are considered financially, sorry, I flashed by one, are considered financially illiterate. Oh, sorry. There we go. You seeing a recent study on financial literacy? There we go. So 5 billion people are considered financially illiterate. And that references the shocking results of a global study. And in that study, only 30% of people in the world were considered financially literate. The study uses a simple money quiz, which you can take on our website. So just ask the person who invited you, to reveal that the vast majority of people from all countries in the world were unable to correctly answer a few relatively basic questions about money. So this class will teach you the answers to those questions and more. And it's the reason we teach this course, and hopefully while you're here. Can you believe that almost half of Americans don't have enough to cover a $400 emergency? And if you think, don't worry, I'm Canadian, in Canada, that stat is $200. And the average credit card balance, I know this one says debt, but I believe they mean card balance, is $9,333 in the US and over $8,000 in Canada. And Canadians will pay over $7 billion in interest on credit cards this year. In 2020, with a number of people on unemployment or EI, the up and down stock market volatility, and so many people impacted, I'm sure the numbers could be worse. But here's the good news for you and everyone in this session. With knowledge and action, we can change these numbers. So meet the sucker cycle. And this is Clark. You'll get to know our characters through our How Money Works book. This is Clark. He's kind of the fall guy. Clark is in the sucker cycle. It's the trap of foolishly spending and low interest savings that goes on, month after month, year after year. It adds up, slowly sucking away to our potential to be wealthy, to be free and in control. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. Every couple of weeks, the cycle repeats. Too much eating out, unnecessary online purchases, another streaming subscription that you may not use. Most people know how to earn money and how to spend it, and that's it. What about all the other options? So we want to break the sucker cycle. Think of your retirement like an airplane. This is a great example of a long-term savings goal. An airplane needs both wings to fly. Social Security or CPP, Canada Pension, and your 401k or your RSP, if you have one, can make up one wing or maybe part of one wing of the income you plan to live on in retirement. The other wing is totally up to you, your responsibility. That responsibility has shifted to the individual kind of silently over time. And we should be targeting at least 70% of our pre-retirement income. Why? Well, we've got taxes, and maybe you stop paying a mortgage in retirement, but you need probably 70% of what you lived on before, assuming you want a similar, not a smaller lifestyle. So that takes some serious effort in terms of putting away money today. And the harsh reality is that no generation is saving enough for today's financial realities. Just look at how long we live. Millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers, all of them are in trouble when it comes to their second wing. will you have enough savings to get your retirement off the ground? Do you even know what you should be saving to get there? And we'll take a look at that in later on in the presentation. So this gray bar here represents, well, actually, first let's look at this big green ramp. If you can get your retirement off the ground, will you have enough income to last the rest of your life, which is this down ramp here, the withdrawal ramp? Or will you run out? Here's the gap. Here's an example that will kind of shine a light on the possibility of a savings shortfall. If you don't put enough aside each month at a good enough rate of return, your savings will fall short, putting your retirement income and lifestyle at risk. Depending on your shortfall, what are you going to do? You may re-enter the workforce. You may cut back on your lifestyle to live on less, or maybe move in with the kids. How does that sound? Probably as bad for you as the kids, right? So you see the shortfall, this gray bar, that's the gap between what you have saved and how much you need. And it should be the focus of every North American and their financial professional to close this gap. So here's what it looks like in the States. Almost identical, but it's Social Security and 401k instead of CPP, OAS, and RSPs. Here's what it looks like when you nail it. The gap is closed. Retirement savings goal is reached right here. So this person has a reliable income because they saved in addition to what they're putting away with the government if they were participating in any pension plans. And they got the rate of return necessary to reach their savings to make the retirement they imagine possible. There could even be some money left over to leave as a legacy to their kids, and that's this amount here. How does that sound? So you can work with your financial professional to figure out what your numbers need to be. And we do know that advised households end up saving more than unadvised households for many reasons. So let's spend a few minutes learning about some of the tools and strategies that will help you do better in retirement or any long-term savings goal. Let's spend a few minutes first learning about the power of compound interest. The power of compound interest refers to the growth potential of money over time by leveraging the magic of compounding, which is interest paid on the sum of what you put in plus all interest previously paid. Or as Zoe, our representative millennial, likes to put it, interest on interest. The difference between simple and compound interest, which by the way, most people don't really understand, is substantial. One amount of interest stays the same and one grows and grows. In this example of a farmer, they only pay interest on the original loan amount. The payment is the same year after year or month after month. On the right-hand side, compound interest, famously exploited and used by a businessman named John D. Rockefeller, you may have heard of him. The farmer would owe interest on both the original loan and all the interest that accrued. So if a payment is missed, it really adds up. In modern times, I know most of us aren't farmers, an example of simple interest paid on a loan would be a line of credit, which is why the rate is sometimes higher. And an example of simple interest earned would be a savings account. Do you find your savings account at the bank is growing? Probably not. It's compound interest and it's a very low rate. An example of compound interest working against you would be a mortgage or a credit card. And a compound interest working for you would be mutual funds with distributions and growth reinvested. So let's look at this graphically. So here we have a 50-year timeline. This is a relatively high 9% simple interest. This could be a loan or it could represent a savings account. If we could find a savings account paying 9%. Anyone got a savings account paying 9%? Not these days. With simple interest, the $1,500, let's say you borrow, grows at a rate of $135 per year, 1,500 times 0.09. And you add that $135 for 50 years to the original 1,500 and you get a grand total of 8,250. Not much for such a long time as 50 years if this is a savings account, but pretty good if it's a loan. So the lesson is that simple interest is good for borrowing, but not for saving, okay? With compound interest, the 1,500 grows at 9%, and you have to pay attention to the compound frequency. So this is compounded monthly, and it grows to 132,777 in the same 15-year period, which is 16 times more money, because the 135 is added to the 1,500 in month 1. And in month 2, the 9% interest is charged on the 1,500 plus the 135, which is 1,635. And that totals interest of $145 instead of $135. So the interest grows every single month. And that's why the graph gets steeper and steeper, especially in the later years as the power of compounding really takes off. The exponential power of compounding growth. You want this for investing, but not for borrowing. Remember those credit cards? That was 19%. This is 9. So let's look at rates other than 9% to see how changing the interest rate impacts our savings or our debt. In the next slide, we'll have a scenario of $178 saved every month from ages 25 to 67, kind of our adult life, at different returns. Now, most people don't understand the power of the different returns, and that explains why they choose unfortunate places to save their money. By the way, what is a typical credit card rate? Anyone want to come off mute and say?
20%.
Yeah, 19.999, right? So we're not going to look at 20%. I think that would be off the chart, but we'll look at 1, 3, 6, and 9. So the amount per month of $178 and a 50-year time frame are the same as before. The only change is the rate of return. So green represents 1%, then we have 3%, 6%, and 9%, which is almost 800% more money at 9% versus 1%. So it's about $1 million versus just over 100,000. As you can see, rate of return could be the defining factor that closes your retirement savings gap or leaves you with a significant shortfall. And that's why Albert Einstein said it was the most powerful force he'd ever encountered, compound interest. Okay, you guys still with me? A lot of numbers, I know. Well, we've all been guilty of squandering time. It's especially costly when you lose the value of money over that time. You never get it back, or the money lost. There are 3 action steps to leverage the time value of money. So this is our next concept. The 3 ways to leverage are starting now, saving regularly, and being patient. So starting earlier, you've probably heard this, it's always a good idea. Sarah is our character here who starts saving $4,000 at age 22, and she saves to age 30 for 8 years, and then she stops. So 22 to 30, and then stops, $4,000 a year. George, who never had this class, waited, he delayed, he put off, he procrastinated saving to age 30, only 8 years later. And he saved the same $4,000, but for 38 years instead of 8 years, to age 67. And who ended up with more? Oops, sorry, went backwards. Who ended up with more? Sarah. She saved 4.75 times less and ended up with $111,000 more. Holy cow. That makes me regret my 20s. I squandered my 20s, but don't worry, there's still hope for all of us. Here's another picture of the power of time. This graph breaks it down by age. So you can find your closest age on the left-hand side. For every million you want at retirement, and I'll just put in that you want $1 million per decade because of inflation, because we're living longer. If you can get a steady 9% rate of return, you can see that the monthly amount you need to save today to get there. So at age 30, you need to save $282 per month to get $1 million at retirement, assuming you can get average 9%. If you wait till age 40, this is kind of like Sarah versus George, you need to save $731 per month. And at some point, you'll outpace your ability to hit the monthly savings amount. I don't know who has $8,000 lying around just to save for retirement. Most of us don't. So at that point, if you procrastinate too long, you'll have two options: shrink your dreams or your projected retirement lifestyle, or find a way to earn more money. I personally chose the latter and came into this business after working as an engineer for about 12 years. I realized I was going to get outpaced. Are you having fun? That's a really shocking slide, that one before. So let's get into some tools again. This is my favorite part. It's time to learn the rule of 72. Have you guys heard of it? Only probably the people that work with us. It's a mental math shortcut that really the wealthy have used for years, and everyone should know it. You simply divide any interest rate into the number 72, and it tells you how long it takes for your money to double. So it works for you. It describes compound interest. Again, it works for you if you save money. Compound interest works against you if you borrow money. So at 1%, it takes 72 years for a dollar to turn into $2, which is a pretty long time. Would anyone knowingly choose that on purpose? Well, keep that in mind because we'll come back to it. So as you can see, the better rate of return you get, the faster your money can double. At 3%, it's every 24 years, at 6% every 12, 9% every 8 years, and at 12% every 6 years. That's more like it. So what about the 1%? Would anyone choose 72 years for your money to double? Oh yeah. Most people don't know how money works. So there's 10 trillion sitting in passbook savings accounts that average less than, not 1%, less than 0.1%. That's a fraction of 1%. When CNBC did a review of our How Money Works book, this is one of the things they pointed out to be the most unbelievable. And many of the actual institutional savings account rates are even lower. Now, again, if you think, well, we're Canadian, I couldn't find the exact stats, but there's about $120 billion sitting in low interest savings accounts. I really liked our chief economist at BMO Capital Markets, who was quoted as saying, "I see the cash mountain as a serious source of potential upside to next year's growth. If you open it, they will spend it." That's how the banks see your cash sitting in your bank account, as a way to increase their profit, because of course they see it as a way to take your money and lend it back to you in the form of consumer loans, credit cards, mortgages, and business loans. No, banks aren't evil. That's their job, is to stimulate the economy. But make sure you want them using your money to do it. Or do you want to use your money to stimulate your own retirement? Right? That's the question. So at the average rate of return of 0.09, if you divide that into 72, you're looking at 800 years for your account to double. As George says, his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren will love it. And just so we're clear, the same place that gives you 0.09% can charge you 19% or more for a credit card. So their money doubles every 4 years. Now you see why the subtitle of our book is Stop Being a Sucker. That's what you see on the bowl of certain institutions, on the counters in the bowl when you go up to work at certain institutions. So you need to know how money works today, not tomorrow, today. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Yvonne, who will take you through the 7 money milestones. This is your step-by-step action plan. So knowledge is great. I hope you're fired up. Now we get to put it into action to help you to chart a course from where you are today to financial security and independence. And the good news is No one is too far ahead or too far behind to benefit from these milestones. Each milestone that Yvonne will take you through is a critical step to help you reach your financial summit. We are not one-trick ponies here. We help you holistically. And because this time we're spending together, you're increasing your financial literacy concept by concept, strategy by strategy, learning to take control of your personal finances. And this will help give you the confidence to discuss your situation with a financial professional. And we know a few that we could strongly recommend. So bear with me while I switch the sharing screen over to Yvonne. And I think I just closed mine. And
Yep. Thanks, Alison.
there we go. Pretty seamless.
I apologize if you can hear a little baby in the background wailing. Yeah, he's going through separation anxiety right now. What can you do? Everybody can hear me okay? All right. Okay. So thank you, Alison. So like Alison said, we're going to go through this one by one strategy at a time, one concept at a time. So with each page, I hope you feel more empowered. I feel like you can make some sound decisions for your family. And don't feel too overwhelmed. I know we're covering a lot of different concepts today. Make sure you go back to the person who invited you and set up a time to go through, maybe pick one or two strategies or concepts that you learn to dissect it and to see how this can really benefit you and how you can improve on your personal situation. So we've already gone through some of the financial education. We're gonna now go through some of the key concepts that you will need to build a really firm foundation financially. So concept number 2, proper protection. What does that mean? Essentially, it means getting the right type and the right amount of life insurance or critical illness insurance, whatever that may be, to protect you against the loss of income. And then we're going to move on to emergency fund, having the a rainy day fund in case something happens. And then debt management. If that's an area of concern, make sure you sit down with the person who invited you, because we have lots of different strategies to help you come out of debt, strive to eliminate all the bad debt, and come out ahead. Okay. And then we're going to move on to cash flow. I have some tips for you to how to improve and increase your cash flow immediately. Next, we're going to talk about building wealth. A lot of people think if I need to sit down with a financial advisor, I need to come with some wealth. That's not true, because having a financial plan, really, as you can see here, building wealth is only one of 7 money milestones. So we're going to talk about some of the things that can work for you and against you, and what we can do, we can all do better to improve our financial picture. Lastly, we're going to protect the wealth that we've been building. Okay. So proper protection. How much insurance do you need? We're talking about life insurance here. A lot of people ask me that, is it my employer gave me something? Is that enough? Through the group insurance, should I be getting something in addition to that? Well, the rule of thumb is get 10 times your annual income. So for instance, if you're making $50,000 a year, get $500,000 of coverage. If you make $100,000 a year, you should have at least $1 million coverage. Of course, there are other factors that can influence how much you get at the end of the day. Could be your age. Are you single? You don't really have a lot of responsibilities. Or are you closer to an age where you're getting a mortgage? You have kids that you need to care for, maybe elderly parents that you need to care for. You have more financial responsibilities. Do you have debt that you need to also think about? You don't want to be passing on any debt responsibilities you have to people that you leave behind. How about your income and financial situation? Maybe as you increase in your pay, you want to increase your insurance coverage as well. How about your health? Do you have a health problem right now that you're very concerned about, you dying prematurely? Maybe that's something that would trigger you to think about getting maybe even critical illness insurance. Right? Maybe a loved one in your immediate family, maybe a parent or a sibling has a health problem that triggered, something in you to think, hey, like I'm not immortal. I need to think about the day that I will pass and what's going to happen financially to my family if I'm no longer able to provide an income here for them to sustain the lifestyle. How many dependents do you have? Do you have, 2, 3, 4 children that you need to take care of? Not only children. How about elderly parents or maybe an aunt or uncle that depend on you that you need to care for? Even if you sponsor children through, Compassion, World Vision, whatever that may be, those are your dependents too. They depend on you, on your monthly contribution to make sure that they can get their food and vaccine and school supplies and whatnot. So make sure that you take that into account too. You want to make sure that, should something happen to you, they will continue to get the income from you. How about your role in business? Are you a partner? Are you a key person in your business that you need to provide insurance for in case something happens to you? Maybe you're the marketing guy and your partner is the technical person. And so both of you need each other to complete the business, to make sure that the business is viable. So maybe you need to take care of the marketing side. Maybe your partner is not great with marketing, but if something happened to you, you will need to have some money to go and hire someone to replace you. So think about having business insurance to cover for each other. Basically, life insurance falls into two basic categories, okay? Temporary and permanent. So temporary would be a term insurance. Permanent would be something like a universal life or whole life policy, okay? We're gonna talk about some of the differences between the two. So temporary insurance or term life insurance, as the name implies, it provides you coverage for a certain specified period of time, like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We even have one that provides up to 40 years. It could be up to age 100 if you can afford that. Basically, you have to die within the term. That's essentially it, okay? You have to die within the term. So if you bought a term 10, it's a gamble, really. The insurance company is gambling that you will not die within the 10 years, so they don't have to pay you out. For you, well, you don't want to die within 10 years, but just in case, if you die within that first 10 years, that you will get paid. It will end at the term, even if you can continue to renew it until the very end. It will still stop at 85 years old. Some policies 80 years old. So you cannot keep it until, let's say if you pass away at 90 years old, it's not going to last that long. So all the premiums that you've been paying, consider that rent. Okay, having a term insurance is like having rent. When you pay your rent, you have coverage, you have roof over your head. It will provide you that coverage. But when you walk away from it, you take nothing with you. There's no equity that you can take with you. There's no cash value that you can take with you, and you have no more coverage. The minute you stop paying your premium, sure, there's a grace period that they will allow you, but after that, there's no more coverage. And when you need to apply, when you need the coverage again, you need to reapply for the whole thing, go through your health checks and whatnot, okay? With term life insurance, it's the most affordable type of life insurance that you can get. So if budget is a constraint for you, this is a good alternative, okay? I say alternative because it cannot cover everything, okay? If you have small children, let's say they are under the age of 20, maybe you want to get a term 10 or term 20 to provide that extra coverage in case you pass away before they become financially independent. If you owe a mortgage, usually a mortgage is 25 years, 20 years. So maybe you just want to get a term life insurance that only covers for that term. Or paying for college. I have a 1-year-old, so I need a lot more insurance within the first 20, 25 years of his life because he's not financially independent yet. So I need to think about getting extra to make sure if I pass away, he can still continue to go to college because now I'm funding his RESPs right now. If I'm not here, who's going to continue to fund for his RESP? Again, if you're running a company, if you're a business owner, you need to think about protecting the business, okay? Getting some sort of insurance to protect you as a key person. Permanent life insurance is like term. It provides a death benefit, okay, to protect your family financially. However, it's designed to be kept for life. So like I said, with term insurance, it will end at about 80, 85 years old. Most people don't end up keeping it for that long. By the time they hit their 50s and 60s, they no longer can afford the premium because it just becomes so high, excuse me, that they just can't afford to keep it. But with the permanent life insurance, it's designed for you to keep until you pass away. It could be 102 years old, could be 105 years old. It's not just for that term, okay? So start no policy till the end of life. some of the extra features that it's got inside, aside from protecting you, to pay out a tax-free death benefit for your beneficiary, you can also utilize the living benefits inside. So while you're alive, you don't have to die to use the benefits. While you're alive, you can still utilize it because there's cash value building inside. Okay, that's the difference between a term insurance. There's no cash, there's no equity. With a permanent life, there's lots of cash that you can build up inside, and there's equity. Should you decide to cancel for whatever reason, there's cash value there that you could potentially take with you. But if you keep it for long, you're going to accumulate a lot of funds inside that in the future, should you require long-term care, you can utilize, some of the cash to help pay for some of these expenses. You can also borrow against the cash value to supplement your retirement income, tax-free. And at the end of life, there's also a tax-free death benefit for your heirs or your charity or whoever you want to give that money to. Here's a really nice feature that I like with a permanent life insurance. I'm going to talk about one of the living benefits that you can use for retirement. So not only do you get insurance coverage for life, it will not cancel on you. Okay, that's benefit number one. You can also use it as a savings tool. So if you contribute $250 per month into it for 20 years, I'm using a 30-year-old female non-smoker here as an example. If you contribute $250 every month for 20 years, when you retire, this person can take out $1,000 every single month for 20 years. How is that for a magic box? Okay, you put in $250 every single month for 20 years. You can take out $1,000 every single month for 20 years. If you're interested in something like that, we can build a solution like that for you. Make sure that you talk to the person, like I said, and who invited you, and explore this concept. Is really powerful, and it's even more powerful when you apply it to kids. Most people don't think about getting insurance for kids, but if you use this tool to build cash and retirement fund for them, this is really, really a big gift that you can give to your kids. So do talk to them. Plus, it's so much cheaper to get it for kids, right? Because their cost of insurance go up as you age. Well, they're kids, my little 1-year-old, super cheap to get it for him. Number 3, emergency fund. So if you got your protection taken care of, you've got, your insurance and in case something happens, you're taken care of. You need to make sure you have an emergency fund. Okay. In Vancouver, it rains all the time. You need to have a rainy day fund. Otherwise, if you're just building assets, if you're just collecting things, but you have no roof over your head, guess what? When it rains, everything's wet, everything's damaged. Okay, that's what an emergency fund is. Okay, you need to make sure that not only do you have protection, your emergency fund means if something were to happen, you have something to pay for it instead of having to go into debt. Okay, we recommend saving 3 to 6 months of your income in case of emergency. As you can see here, depending on your income, you can decide if you want to say 3 months emergency or for 6 months income. What do I recommend? Of course, I recommend 6 months, okay? Especially if you are a business owner or self-employed, okay? Because even if you are unable to open your doors and work, you still have to pay for a lot of expenses, a lot of overhead, okay? Your rent, your electricity, and all of that, and maybe employees that you still need to pay for. So I would say save 6 months of income in case something happens to you, okay? If you're an employee and if you feel it's pretty easy for you to get back on your feet if you lost your job, maybe get 3 months emergency, okay? Emergency, does not include an emergency, spa session. Some people might argue that's an emergency, but no. Okay, 4. Debt management, changing your spending habits and striving to eliminate debt. Like I said, I'm just going to go through it really quickly, just an overview, but if this is an area of concern for you, please talk to the person who invited you. We have lots of tools and strategies to help you. The average Canadian has $23,000 in personal debt, and that's not including mortgage. I think if you included mortgage, it's over $70,000 per person in debt. 1 in 5 people who are using deferred payments were already financially stressed prior to the start of the pandemic. So a lot of people are still deferring their payments right now. And they were stressed already prior to the pandemic. Can you imagine how stressed they are? Maybe that's you, okay? Maybe you really need to sit down with someone and come up with a plan to make sure that you are not stressed all the time. You can have that peace of mind knowing that your money is in a good place, that your family is in a good place. financially. Here are some 5 tips to help you eliminate and stay out of debt. Know what you owe. Every single card that you have, line of credit, car loan, mortgage, list them down. How much you owe, what is the interest rate, what is the minimum payment, and then we'll go from there. Okay, when you sit down with a person, a financial professional, we need to know how much you owe to all the different organizations. Okay, it could be even ICBC that you owe or phone bill. Okay, all of those things we need to know. No more late payments. It's important for you to have a good credit report, and to contribute to that is by making on time and full payments. So if you cannot make full payments, make at least a minimum payment and make sure it's on time. Set up some sort of pre-authorization or reminder on your phone. You can even, I would recommend doing it, paying it 2 days prior to the due date, 2 business days prior to the due date, because sometimes if you have to transfer funds from your bank, it takes about 2 days, okay, for the money to go over. Target one debt at a time, okay? You wanna feel a sense of accomplishment. You can either choose the one with the smallest balance, or you can choose one with the highest interest. Like Alison said, you wanna find one that's like 19.99%. Some of them are even like 26%. Okay, find the highest, interest rate, pay down that one, or pay off the smallest balance. Maybe you only have $500 on this card, pay that off so you feel good, okay? And then apply that amount to the next card. And stop charging and cancel any unused subscription, okay? If you have a card with a balance, okay, and you're paying into, you're thinking, I'm paying it down, but you continue to charge more onto that card, guess what? When you make a payment every month, only half of your payment will go towards old balance, the other half will apply towards new balance, okay? So if you keep adding more onto it, you're thinking that you're paying off the old balance really quickly. Not so. Only half of your payment is applied to the old balance. So make sure that if you have a balance on a card, maybe use a different card for new purchases, and then be very disciplined to pay down the balance on the existing card, the old card, okay? And cancel any that you don't use. You can also find out, don't just cut up your card. You need to actually call them to cancel it. You can go through TransUnion or Equifax to request a personal, your own credit report. They don't charge you anything, and it doesn't affect your credit rating, to see how many outstanding cards you have, okay? It will show you all the ones that you have applied for, how much the credit limit you have, and maybe you'll see, a few of them that you've applied for, back in the day. Maybe it's a Sears card, or, a long time ago that you had that you never used, or you cut up and you've forgotten about it. You need to cancel that one. You need to call them to cancel it, because it does affect your credit rating. Lastly, you could refinance your mortgage. Okay, mortgage rates are quite affordable right now. So if it's time for you to renew your mortgage, maybe consolidate your debt. Mortgage rates are much lower than a credit card interest rate. So that's something that you can think about. Increasing cash flow. I love talking about this. I love getting ideas from people to how to increase your cash flow. So if you do have one, type it in the chat, okay? I'm just gonna mention a few here to help you increase your cash flow, because when you have cash flow, what's cash flow? Basically is income minus expenses and what you have left with at the end of the month, okay? That's your cash flow, what you have left with. Most people who live paycheck to paycheck have zero cash flow, okay? Some even have a negative cash flow. If you're always, spending more than you earn, you're gonna have negative cash flow. We wanna get you in a positive position. You're gonna have more left over at the end of the month, so you can do something with it. You can save it, you can bless other people with it. You wanna have positive cash flow. So either earn additional income or manage your expenses really well. Here are some of the tips to increase your cash flow. Create and stick to a budget. I know people don't like to talk about budget. It's boring, it's stressful. Maybe your idea of, creating a budget is, restriction. I can't do this, I can't do that. But you can make it fun. Okay, imagine yourself as being the boss of your money. Okay, if you're the boss, money is, every dollar that comes in, they're your employees. You need to assign a job to each dollar that comes in, because they're your employees. Okay, this dollar, is it supposed to go to rent? Is this dollar for grocery? Is this dollar for car? You need to make sure you give a job to each of them. If you have a dollar that doesn't have a job description, it becomes idle, doesn't know what to do, okay? So your temptation is to spend that dollar or just to leave it in a low interest, checking account, not doing anything for you. So make sure that even if that dollar is supposed to help fund your retirement or emergency fund, give that dollar a job, okay? Crack that whip and give them a job and get them working for you, okay? You want to weigh your income versus expenses. If you really cannot afford to have, every 2 weeks going to a nail spa, don't. It's not a need, okay? So we need to talk about needs versus wants. I say, oh, I need to, touch up on my roots. My daughter would very quickly come and say, you need food, water, and shelter, mama, not coloring your hair. So, you want to evaluate that. Also, a need for you might not be a need for another person. So I challenge you to question your need as well, okay? Maybe for a French family, wine is a need, wine and cheese and baguette, those are needs. But for another family, rice maybe it's a need, right? So I want you to question that. Do I really need the new iPhone? Do I really need to, get that newer car? No, and I also want you to maybe explore your wants. What do you really want to achieve? Do you really want to have enough down payment for that home of yours? Do you really want to be able to send your kids to university and not for them to incur any student loan? Those are nice wants to have, and those are nice goals to have. And maybe those wants are more important than the need that you currently have, okay? I challenge you to question your needs versus wants. You want to develop a written game plan. It's important to have something down on paper. You want to also review and reflect on the transactions that happen. I challenge you to look at your expenses. Maybe take out your credit card bill and add up all the different items that you spend at the different categories. You'd be surprised. I was sitting down with a young millennial, and he told me that, I don't spend very much, eating out or, spending on food because I'm single, I'm by myself. And I said, can you give me a number? And he said, I think maybe $400 or $500 on food. When I looked at he sent me his statement, and when I calculated everything, it was over $1,000 per month that he spent on Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes, all these things that he thought, $15 here, $10 there, it doesn't add up. It does add up. These are the most sneaky, dangerous purchases because they're small amounts, but they are frequent. If you have a $500 ticket item, you would remember, and you would probably beat yourself over the head if you, purchase it, on impulse. But if they are just $15, $5 here and there, you don't really think about it, but they all add up. $1,000. That was what he was anticipating. And even like ordering from Amazon. Okay, I'm guilty of that too. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I order something and it arrives the next morning. I'm like, did I really order that? Because they're, not very expensive, and you already have your payment, method already inputted there, and then you just add to cart, purchase, and then it arrives, So make sure you check all of those things. Have a system. Maybe it's, anything over $100 you need to check with your partner, okay, before you make that purchase. Although if you go into Costco, almost everything costs $100 or more. Shave your spending on car and home insurance. Maybe up your deductible so that your monthly premium is not so high. If you can also pay annually rather than monthly, you will also save on that extra premium as well. Basically anything that does not have an investment portion or cash, you can pay lump sum and you will save on the fee, that extra. Maybe you save 1 month's premium. Buy and sell pre-owned items. Nothing wrong with owning something that's been previously loved. Okay, if you feel insecure, most people who are insecure, they want to accumulate a lot of new things to show off. But I'd rather have more money in my investments than to show off with the latest gadget or the nicest furniture. it's okay to have a purchase pre-owned items. So I would encourage you, join some online and community sale bid groups. There are tons out there. Facebook, it has a lot. There's Kijiji and Craigslist, and make sure to stay safe, of course, during lockdown times when you do the transaction. Sell as well, okay? Not just purchase from these sites, but sell some of the items that you no longer have a use for, but other people might be able to benefit from, okay? So that will very quickly increase your cash flow, okay? I have an associate who she has 2 boys, and, they outgrew their shorts and, clothing, and she got her nephew to sell them, like, on a bid site. I think it's like starting bid, like $2 per pair. And then they ended up with like over $400 just selling pre-used things, okay? Lastly, shop for a better bank or credit union. So whichever you decide to go with, either a bank or credit union, there are bank fees that I just don't agree with. Just does not make sense for me. You might be thinking, well, they're doing this service. I should, they have to make money somehow. So I should let them charge me that $10 or $30 per month to help me, with my transactions, right? No, they're making so much money. They don't need your little transaction fees, okay? If you're still paying transaction fees, please, please, please. It's like you still using a VCR. No, there's so many choices out there, so many banks out there that don't charge anything. Make sure you go find something that does not charge anything. Zero balance requirement or zero minimum balance requirement. There's no fees, no service fees, unlimited e-transfers. There's one thing, get your overdraft protection, okay? Some people might need it, okay? Sometimes you don't realize, it's Christmas and you spend a little bit more, than usual. And then when your monthly, pre-authorized payments come in, they cannot draw. And so you incur $45, $50 NSF charge. And it adds up because, it could be 45 here and then both sides charge you. The bank charges you and then the, phone company also charges you, or the insurance company also charges you. So get an overdraft protection, just a little bit, give you a little bit of cushion in case you need to use it, okay? You don't pay for it if you don't use it. Only if you activate it, then you have to pay for that month, okay? So it's good to have that as, just to provide that peace of mind. Okay, so here are 3 big moves to help you supercharge your cash flow. Number 1, add a side gig. It could be, driving for Uber or Uber Eats, just something on the side to help inject some cash flow, even like $1,000, per month. That could really help you, pay down your debt faster, or, increase your wealth a lot faster, okay? So don't shy away from that, and you don't have to feel ashamed. Like, this is a reality. Like, most people have a side gig. If you talk to teachers and nurses, almost every single one of them have something on the side to help them with their cash flow. Start a business. Number 2, have a proper business, like maybe even consider our business. If there's a need out there, and if you can solve that problem, you're going to be providing a great service to people. I encourage little kids to do that too. Little kids, like even, another associate, her kid and niece also, they drew Christmas cards. They donate all the proceeds to, charity, but still you can, that's one way to make money. Encourage kids to start that, because that's a reality for them going forward. It's not going to be have a job, keep it for 40 years. No longer the case, okay? They're going to be changing every couple of years, and they need to be innovating, thinking of new ideas, and providing that, and creating new problems too, okay? Some problems, before the smartphone, smart screen, we didn't think we needed that, and now every single person has that. It's almost a need, if you still have the BlackBerry, I don't know how you do it. Number 3, the third way to supercharge your cash flow, you can reduce your income tax from your paycheck right at the source. So if you make, maybe regular RSP contribution, maybe you have a lot of charity donation, or you pay, child support, all of these things that typically will lower your taxable income. And if you usually get back a big tax refund after you file your taxes, maybe you should consider completing a T1213 form instead. You can find that by going to canada.ca, just type in T1213 and fill that out. You need to do that every single year, okay? It's not something you fill out and it's forever. Every year you need to do that. And so if you can show them, prove to them that you do, donate this amount, around this amount to your charity every single year or RSPs, then they can deduct, they can reduce how much they withhold from you, the tax that they take from you. So let's say instead of, $2,700, that you take home, you could be taking home, $3,500, okay? And that extra you can put towards savings, paying down debt, paying down your mortgage. Next, building wealth. This is really fun. I like talking about building wealth, but there are certain things that you need to keep. You need to have the discipline to build your wealth. Alison mentioned some of those, but you want to also avoid some of the impact of these threats, taxes and losses or inflation that work against you. So let's talk about that. So you want to make sure that your wealth will last as long as you do. Longevity is a blessing, but outliving your savings is not. Okay, make sure that you have enough to last until you die at a day. We don't know when that day is. So make sure whatever strategy you have, the money will continue to grow. Okay. Most people, a lot of retirees, what I see is their money starts dwindling down. And that's a very depressing, very scary thing to see. Monthly statement, they see their money coming down all the time. And so they drink Campbell soup, and that's all they do because they think they can't afford it. So depressing to see their money coming down. So make sure you have a strategy to make sure that it keeps going up, okay? The 4 threats every wealth builder must conquer. Procrastination, there's a famous quote, or it's been said, oops, clicked the wrong thing. Procrastination, hands down, is our favorite form of self-sabotage. Why do we do that to ourselves? Well, aside from that, if you don't have financial literacy, I can't blame you for that. But if you do have that and you're just lazy, well, you only have yourself to blame for that. Okay, so now that you have the information, you cannot procrastinate. You got to implement this. Knowledge isn't power until you implement it. Make sure that it's true power by getting it to work for you. We're going to go through inflation, losses, and taxes and how to overcome those things. What is inflation? Inflation is essentially the tax of time. Things cost more and more every single year, right? Housing, 1995. So this here, annual inflation rate for the past 100 years has been about 2.8%, 3%. Things have cost more and more by 2.8% every single year. Now, think about it. Has your salary or your pay increased by that much every single year? Or your savings increasing by that rate? If you're keeping your money in even a high interest savings account, it's not even 2.8%. It's probably 1.2%, right? GIC now is like 0.7% for 1 year GIC. So you need to outpace that inflation. So let's use the rule of 72 to work for us. Let's calculate. If you take 72, remember what Alison taught, right? You divide it by the average inflation rate. So in our case, it's 2.8%. It will equal the number of years for your cost of goods to double one time. So in our case, 72 divided by 2.8 is about 25 years. Every 25 years, cost of goods will double, okay? So now it's 2020. 25 years ago is what, 1995? In 1995, cost of gas is what, 60 cents? Now is close to $1.20, right? So that's one doubling. In 1995, housing, I think the average home price in Vancouver is about 570,000 or something like that, close to 600,000. Now it's 1.3 million. Actually, it's more than double. It's 2.5 times, right? McDonald's Big Mac. Okay, who eats that? I don't eat that very much. Maybe like once or twice a year, I have to eat it, if I'm on the road. So McDonald's Big Mac, now it's like 570, 569, 568. Okay, back in 1995, half that. So it does work. Okay, so it's like a doubling every 25 years. Did you know that there's something called the Big Mac Index? Go Google it. There's something called the Big Mac Index. Okay, so because it's everywhere, McDonald's is everywhere. They've been around for a long time. So now they've, like the economists, they've actually, created something called the Big Mac Index. So yeah, you can check that out to look at price back in the day versus now. So basically, the lesson here is to make sure your money is outpacing 2.8%, working harder for you. Okay. Let's talk about losses. If you lost 50% of a $10,000 investment, in order to get back to 10,000, do you think you need a gain of 50% or 100%? Right? Most people are saying, oh, if I lost 50, I just need to gain back 50, right? No. If you gain back 50, it's only back to 7,500. You need to have 100% return gain just for you to break even again, to get back to 10,000. So it's important to put into something, not just, someone says, oh, you should invest in Bitcoin or cannabis or whatever, next big thing is. Well, what if you lost that much? How likely is it for you to get 100% return for you to get back to 10,000? So like Warren Buffett said, right? 2 rules to investing. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1, don't lose money. Okay. We can't guarantee that you won't lose money, but our job is to help you mitigate that, to help you manage that risk. Okay. So 3 strategies to protect against the impact of losses. Number 1, reduce the risk of losses. Okay. You need to work with someone. Why you need to have a professional to help you manage this? Because we do this every single day. We know what's going on. We have webcasts, webinar, phone calls, continuing education credits, all of those things that we daily were, listening to and watching to manage this for you. But you have other things to do. You have your job, you have your family. This is not your main focus. And so you need to have someone to partner with you to help you mitigate that losses, okay, to make sure that it's growing for you. The second strategy to protect is to diversify your portfolio. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. Put something in healthcare, something in consumer staples, something in tech stocks, maybe something in US, something in Canada, something in Asia, Europe, all over the place. You don't want to put everything into one place. As good as it sounds, might work against you if it tanks, because the probability of one company going bankrupt or losing 50% is actually very, very high. Okay. Number 3, utilize financial vehicles. Okay, having a mutual fund or portfolio will help you diversify that risk. And working with a professional, we have access to these vehicles that we can make available to you and to teach you through it. Okay. Next, the impact of taxes. So not only do you want to outpace inflation, you want to diversify your portfolio, and all these things are important, but impact of taxes, most people don't even think about. They think it's the government's right to take my money. Okay, legally, yes, but they have provided so many vehicles for us to save our money without having to dip into our pockets. So make use of that, okay? So everything that we teach here is legal, it's legit, and it's working for lots of people. Most people should be taking advantage of it. Unfortunately, they don't know about it, okay? So here we're here to inform you. So impact of taxes. It's like having holes in your pocket. If you're making lots of money, filling it with lots of money in your pockets, but you have holes because of taxes, all right, then you're not going to be keeping as much. You want to keep more in your retirement. You want to pay less to the government. Okay, we're not teaching you to evade tax. Okay, this is all legal. You want to leave more for your children. Okay, it's your responsibility to go and find out these vehicles and to utilize them to maximize their benefits. Okay. Seed versus a harvest. So if you had a choice, if you have saved up $10,000 at age 29, earning 9% annual return, and when you reach 65, you have $250,000. Let me ask you, if you had a choice, would you rather be taxed on the initial 10,000, or would you want to be taxed on a 250,000 when you retire? The seed or the harvest? Okay, it's kind of a rhetorical question, Of course, you know, as a farmer, again, like Alison said, you want to be taxed on the little one, on the seed. Just tax me that one time on the seed, but when it grows to a harvest, don't touch it, okay? Again, unfortunately, a lot of people have been either misinformed, they don't have someone guiding them, they're putting money in a vehicle that gets taxed on a harvest every single year, okay? RSP is an example of that, okay? You get that instant gratification, right? When you get your tax refund, that's the seed. But when you start taking money out, the tax is enormous. So there are 3 ways that you can be taxed on your investment. You can get taxed now, so that's a taxable investment. Taxes are paid on your interest, earnings, dividends every single year. So whatever you have in your checking savings account, it's being taxed now all the time, okay? Every single year you get a tax slip. Tax later, that tax deferred, so RSP, RESP, RDSP, those are taxed later, okay? While you're growing it, they don't tax you, but when you start taking it out, it's gonna be taxed. Or tax never, I like that, okay? It's never gonna be taxed. I like that much better. If you're interested to learn more, I'm not gonna go into the details. Make sure you talk to the person who invited you. Lastly, we wanna protect our wealth. If we did our job right, you're gonna have money left over at the end of the day, okay? When you pass away, you're gonna have money left over. Who do you wanna give that money to? Well, if you don't do proper planning, the government will have first dibs. They will have first dibs to whatever you have, and then your family will have to prove to the government that they deserve that money, and they have to fight to get that money back from you, okay? So we wanna protect that. We wanna make sure that we have the right plans in place, having the right, you know, having your will, updated will in place, including your financial power of attorney in case you're incapacitated, you cannot make decisions for yourself. You want to make sure someone that you trust can step in and help you make those decisions, including health directives. You know, do you want to be resuscitated? You know, maybe these are some of the things that you need to reflect on and think about, maybe talk to your family about, you know, how you want that done. Put that on writing. Best yet, have a digital will, okay? Because a physical one can get lost, it can get damaged. You know, if you have a digital one that's safe on cloud, you can share it with the executor, you can share it with people that you want to give access to, so that should they need to access it, they have access to it immediately. And we have services like that as well, if you want to explore more with the person who invited you. So you just learned the 7 money milestones. Make sure you put that to work. So you want to discuss the concepts and review the milestones with a financial professional. The person who invited you will be a good first source to help you navigate through this. Don't procrastinate. Set up a meeting today. You know, it doesn't have to be daunting and overwhelming. We can just take it one at a time. You know, you want to talk about cash flow? Just talk about cash flow. You want to talk about debt management? Just talk about that. Okay, we can move on to other concepts, you know, with each subsequent meeting. I want to quickly just share about how we deliver on our mission and our vision. So first of all, we, as you can see, we really focus on the education and empowering people through, you know, these different concepts, teaching you how money works. So we don't charge you for that. We conduct a customized financial needs analysis. Then we recommend solution for you. Again, we don't charge for that either. And then upon completion of a sale, so if you like what we taught, you like the strategy, you like the plan in every way, that's going to be better than what you currently have. You want to go ahead and get something started. When that transaction goes through, we do get paid. Okay, don't you worry about that. We get paid, but not from you. We're going to charge the big guys. We're going to charge the financial institutions, so they pay us instead of us having to charge you. Okay. Here are some of the product partners that we have working with us. You might recognize some of the names. Some of them might not be very familiar to you because they are not from the retail channel, okay? They are wholesalers that work exclusively with advisors like ourselves that help typically the high net worth clients, but you know what? We just offer it to everyone, okay? Some of the, on the right-hand side, you'll see on the investment savings side and also the insurance side, the different products that we offer. And it's a one-stop shop, okay? If you want to have that peace of mind, you want to be able to meet with someone that will take care of every area of your finances. If you change your address, you just have to talk to one person and everything is taken care of. Talk to us, okay? We're open. Of course, if you have someone that that you work well with, outside of our company, feel free to do that too. Make sure that you are getting ahead and being protected, financially. So here are your options. You can get a personalized financial needs analysis done, again, complimentary. And if you want to chat about, adding a business or a side gig with us, we do have a corporate overview session next Saturday at 10 a.m. If you want to check it out, talk to the person who invited you. We'll send you the invitation link. And or you might know someone who can benefit from a session like this. Okay, we do this quite often, although it's coming up to holiday, so we're going to resume next year. But I think we will still be offering, Alison, correct me if I'm wrong, you'll still be offering this week, next week.
Every day this month.
Every day this month. There you go.
Half. Part 1, part 2, alternating days.
There you go. Okay, so if you want to, listen to this again, make sure that you join in and attend Alison's session. So I'm going to pass the time over back to the MC.
Well, thank you, Alison, and Yvonne for the great information. Some of you guys, this might be the very first time that you've heard this information, and hopefully it's broken down in a simple manner for you to grasp, and we'll build upon that. So make sure you go back to the person who invited you and say, okay, teach me how to save those taxes later. Teach me how to protect my family and implement them. Maybe for some of you guys, this is super basic and you've heard all of this before and you want to get into the deeper stuff. So come approach us individually and we'll work on customizing something for you specifically. But thank you, Alison and Yvonne. Both of these ladies are powerhouse ladies. And just to let you know, they come from different backgrounds. Alison mentioned that she was an engineer for 15 years. Yvonne was a manager and she did marketing and design work, and she started working with us here. So any of you guys are curious about how do we get into this industry? How do we increase cash flow by teaching the stuff that we do and helping other people? Come and approach us about that as well. Our team is actually putting on a presentation next Saturday morning at 10 a.m. specifically about the career opportunity. So those of you guys who are interested, let us know. And I just wanted to thank you for being here. Enjoy your Saturday. There will be a survey that's going to be emailed out to you guys. So give us some feedback. What did you like? What things you wanted to learn more about? And then let the person who invited you know so you can chat about it. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.